Okay, welcome to this SLACanada Dexter Chat. I'm Rebecca Jones, delighted to be hosting this. And of course, this is all set up by my great friend and former business partner, Jane Dysart. There she is. And we are recording this, and it will be available on the Dysart Jones website for you to view at any time. We are delighted today to have two tech trend spotters with us. Brian Pichman of the Evolve project, and also is working with Information Today now. He is working closely with Jane Dysart in doing the programming for Internet Librarian, Computers and Libraries, and Knowledge Management, Knowledge World as well. Fantastic. Brian has, of course, won an award with OLA, with the Ontario Library Association, for his work in technology for libraries. And he is always out there looking at what should be of interest to libraries, even if they don't think it's of interest yet. And of course, my all-time favorite, Stephen Abram, who I have followed around since we were doing our masters together. He was a year ahead of me, and I used to watch him thinking, my God, he's smart, and he is. Stephen has worked for many of the leading industry organizations over the years, and we are glad that he's now consulting under Lighthouse Consulting. Did I get it right? Did I get it right? And he's working on makerspaces right now with libraries, and I know that he's also been working with architects on the design of libraries, which is fabulous to bring all of his knowledge to it. He is, of course, a multi-award winner in our profession for his work with libraries and also with associations in advocating the importance of libraries. And both of these people look at what's happening outside of libraries that libraries need to be paying attention to. And I have learned from them, and I'm just going to start us off by showing McKinsey. If you don't follow McKinsey, or Brian's also going to be talking about Gardner, we strongly encourage you to, because McKinsey has their technology trends. They put out their outlook twice a year. This one just came out yesterday. It's looking at the technology trends for the rest of 2022. And it's very interactive. You can see that one of the industry trends, of course, and I know Stephen and Brian will be talking about it, is applied AI. It shows you exactly what its innovation score is. It's up to 9, its adoption rate and the investment of it. But then it comes down to quantum technologies, which is way down here at the bottom with an investment of $3 billion. They are talking about this increasing, of course, and you can just have a look at all of this: future of mobility, of course, immersive reality technologies. I draw your attention to quantum technologies because there is work underway by a professor at the University of Montreal here in Canada, working with a professor out of IBM's research lab and 2 professors at MIT. They have won the biggest science award in the world for their work on quantum information, which should be of interest to us. It is about information science, computer science, information management. So that sort of sets the context for this. And Stephen's going to start us off. Stephen's going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then we'll talk with Brian. And then, of course, Jane and I have a million questions for him.
A million? Okay, I'm trying to get my slides to go into slide. There it is.
There you
so
go.
I'm talking about cool stuff. And
love this.
Yeah, you know, the stuff that comes with PowerPoint now, even though it's old-fashioned. I'm going to talk a little bit about that trend. So I'm just going to quickly have one slide, because if you go into Brian's and my last one for SLACanada, you will have seen my stuff on the philosophy of how to track trends. And so you can go back and view that on the Dysart and Jones and SLACanada website, but you really, really need to use a wider lens. We need to not be belly button gazing and say, well, gee, has it hit the library market yet? Is the library vendor doing it? We need to look at a much broader way. And like I was talking about, toys is one place to look, but it's everywhere. Then we need to use our imagination, our creativity. That's the foundation of innovation. So when we're trying to discover the future of libraries and how our users interact with us in a positive way, we need to use our imagination and creativity. And everyone has an imagination, everyone can be creative. So if you're telling yourself a story that you're not, you're wrong. Like, try and be more open-minded to some of your talents. Then understand your goals. We're not about books, we're about reading. We're not about reading, we're about learning. We're not about libraries, we're about community. And whether those communities are students or professors or enterprise co-workers, what's going to make them better? What can we deliver? And then we need to align it with other items in our portfolio. So you can ask the simple questions like, how does TikTok relate to books? And you can sit there and say, well, TikTok's just for kids. Well, it's the #1 recommendation tool for reading right now for teens. So if we're not using TikTok to do it, and just do the hashtag BookTok with the TOK, and you'll see how innovation is happening and that the kids are reading. And then use series-based programming to develop your approach in your community. Introduction courses, hands-on courses, drop-ins, one-offs. Here, let's all download an app together and play with this metaverse tiny app. Those of us who started with Second Life 15, 20 years ago, it feels like, are much farther ahead on understanding the metaverse than those of us who waited till it matured. And it's still a successful, profitable company. So let's enjoy them ourselves. I find that adult play is one of the great gifts. And when I see my granddaughter playing, I can see that it's the #1 learning thing for her. So here's the Gartner cloud on what 2022 things, and you can look at each one of these and apply your imagination. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them. I'm not going to talk about decentralized identity, but if we don't grab hold of decentralized identity for those of us who have library card or student systems like Banner and PeopleSoft, we are not taking advantage of the way to use identity to drive AI and positive user experiences.
Stephen,
Yeah.
sorry. Where is first of all, what is decentralized identity?
So one of the leaders in this space, surprisingly, is OCLC. And so when you build a cloud-based architecture for author identities, and then tie it to BibFrame and linked data, you start to create discovery pathways for reading. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, if I know that's an engineering student coming in or a PhD student coming in, I might deliver a different experience to them. Or a professor coming in, I'll sit there and say, we have some custom services for you, or we have special courses. So those are all opportunities to separate identity from our record keeping systems and use it in a linked way to provide great services. In a special library context, de-linking employee identity from files and then relinking it through a rainbow prism-based viewmaster to actually identify things in the space that you've created, the digital space you've created, that may or may not be objects like records. They may be identities that you should be talking to. And in worldwide cultures, it may be that your best person on XYZ topic is in Singapore. And how would you make humans discoverable? How would you make video and audio and training and all those objects discoverable, even though they're not text-based or may have a text-based component? Brian and I, when we're consulting together, use an AI tool that I suspect Brian is going to show you
Okay.
that automatically captures all the conversations we have with the
Okay.
permission.
Okay, terrific. Thanks for letting me interrupt you. Can you just go back there and just with your cursor, since it's showing, just show them where it is. It's third
It's it.
there. Whoop, whoop.
Sorry,
That's okay.
that's what I get for
There you go.
touching things.
It's right at the peak of inflated expectations. There we go. Thanks,
Right,
Stephen.
which means it's coming very quickly. One of the things with the trough of disillusionment is when you look at the timeline below it, it's one of the shortest term events. And the slope of enlightenment is the longest term events. That's the adoption file.
Right.
And you'll
Okay.
notice the crowd coming up from the innovation trigger.
Yes.
And so you can see causal AI, where you use AI to cause something to happen, or you use minimum viable architecture to make things. That's what SaaS can do, is you don't need everything. You can have stuff. And so it's all fascinating. So I want to, like, we used to talk about the cloud as if it was a one thing. And cloud is important now, and the reframing that needs to go on in our heads is software as a service just made us comfortable as a very initial toenail in the water, not even a whole toe, that, oh my God, you mean I can get off the uploading and updating software by doing it in the cloud and having hundreds of machines in a library system or a corporation and just again going, well, that's great, but that's so the easy stuff. So once we got the cloud there, we found the way to connect things up. When you hear people talk about APIs, but it's bigger than an API. It's using data constructions that allow the data to be constructed in such a way that it discovers itself. So things like linked data and the overall OCLC approach to textual data and books can be applied everywhere. And so then you move to PaaS, the platform as a service. And so you put your platform into your organization. And we see that in the word enterprise when it's in the cloud, that whole corporations are in private platform as a service so that everything is shareable in a very different way. And when you go through that evolution, you move up into infrastructure as a service, so that your workflow, your infrastructure, like a bank using a banking system or an engineer using a drawing CAD/CAM program, that the infrastructure allows for sharing and workflows and that sort of stuff. And why are we hearing about Zuck spending so much time on the metaverse? Because the 10 to 15 years from now, and in the chat, I put the metaverse will take 10 years, and it gives you a timeline for that. We do metaverse as a service. And so what is that metaverse going to be as we deal with the various stages as it moves forward? All technology trends are a moving target, and it's what progress looks like. So it doesn't just happen and be done. It isn't like Windows 95 where you can install it and keep it going for 10 years. It's never done. It's constant innovation, updating, and whatever. And this is one of the timelines I'm following with on what the ultimate effect of the cloud will be on our organizations. So it's different for a university, but when you look at things like identity in the cloud and software in the cloud and content in the cloud and banner PeopleSoft systems and knowing who your students and everybody are, that's a big deal. It's websites are no longer destination sites. It's taking what we used to call a portal and putting it into a real portal. Like, what wormholes are we going to be going through to discover the next generation of innovation, human connection? And this is what I frankly think is our role as librarians, is using the human lens, how people learn, how their biology is. You know, we saw that one of the great quotes from Steve Jobs when he designed the iPhone was his only limitation was that everybody's fingers were about the same size. And he designed it for fingers because that's our biology. Now, when we lifted beyond fingers into Alexa and Siri and everything, everybody's voice freed us from, so we could be walking through a room and asking Alexa stuff and getting an answer. Now, I'll mention something else about that a little later. But with AI and machine learning, this is going to be built into the cloud. So just before, 2 weeks before the lockdown, I gave a speech at Harvard Medical School on AI and machine learning and talked about their role as medical researchers in understanding AI. So I encourage you all to read, the White House has just published an AI philosophy document and some guidelines. Now, we all know guidelines aren't meaningful and they're adapted, but at least it lays a plateau, a platform for the discussion. My biggest concerns with the AI was the low-hanging fruit right now is AI and the human genome. And looking at the human genome, we're looking at massive data. Well, the data couldn't be more unintentionally racist if it tried. It's mostly white, it's mostly Western. The genomes that have been collected are not really good for studying Tay-Sachs or sickle cell anemia or the genetic predisposition of certain genomic buckets that should be handled. And so we can look at this AI thing through our librarian lens and say, we have always modeled and constructed things to actually deal with the real users we have. But when we look at public users, how do we make sure that the machine learning, garbage in, garbage out, isn't like, you know, back in the 80s when that, or I think it was in the 70s that phrase came out. Are we doing something that's way too narrow? And is it too English? Is it too white? Is it disrespectful systemically or maybe systematically of the diversity and the inclusive behaviors we want to ensure that we're learning from everybody in the organization? So I'm involved with an AI project right now that we're implementing through the HR department and the board of a major Canadian bank. And we're using it to assess culture. And we're tying it to triggers like if they put out an announcement, what does the email responses look like? Are the staff reacting to it favorably? And we've already done a few tests. Like there was one where the staff reacted very unfavorably to a message that was sent out with the entire intent of being positive about Indigenous employees. So, but they hadn't tested it, and they now know that some of these positive attempts, when you aren't using the correct AI or targeting it or understanding people well enough, that you're creating problems for yourself. And I don't mean in a manipulative way. I mean in a respectful, positive, let's try and make sure that every employee is engaged and empowered. Maker software. We've done the playful maker software in libraries, mostly because of our budgets. And so a lot of libraries started with 123D because it was free and it could run their 3D printers, which is only one kind of maker software. How do we evolve in colleges and in business to go beyond that? So Brian and I are working with a client right now around adapting the same maker software, CAD CAM software, that is used by NASA and Boeing to build planes, and offering it to libraries at a 99% discount, so that we can, in libraries, colleges, universities, public libraries, and schools, start people off on the right path where they're using the full core software and not the rest of it. So the decisions we used to make based on our hair shirt poverty culture in libraries can move up to be the reality. So when Rebecca was at Brampton, they had a partnership with a major graphic design college, that they had one of the $150,000 3D printers for people to use instead of the $500 3D printer. And by putting that into a public library, you materially shift the positioning you're making for employment and learning and making and design, remembering that making and culture, not manufacturing, is one of the largest employers. So we need to be clear on what we're doing here. So activities like at Do Space, or what Chad Marin is doing at his college, and they'll be talking about it at Internet Librarian in a week or two. And it will be fascinating to see those libraries who are on the bruising edge of understanding some of this stuff. So when we look at maker software, we need to think about what is the intent to make. And it can't only be fun, which is where we started with teens and 3D printers. We use fun as the start. It's like when my granddaughter Sage is playing, we make it enormously fun. But surprise, surprise, she knows her alphabet. She can count to 50. She can do amazing thing because we play with number blocks and knock them over. But it's all very similar to adult learning, and how we progress people along a path to learning and have them read things and be engaged as they go along. And next, the other thing I'm looking at is this is something we identified long ago, that digital photography fundamentally destroyed and built another industry. So when I was at Thomson, we had one of our offices in Webster outside of Rochester. Well, Rochester was where Eastman Kodak was, and it didn't adapt from film to digital. And it didn't see the juggernaut that was going to hit it. So they lost a lot of their business. And now we look at advanced photography, and what does it mean when just about 100% of your users have video editing software, video recording, photography, and photography editing on their phone? And what does it mean in the library on how you use this stuff? So the employment skill, and this is like, obviously I'm using very toned down PowerPoint slides today, but I do know how to make slides that are full of video and animation and all that sort of stuff. The kids who are teens now will not only, but dominantly using video presentations and using a fundamentally different way of engaging people in presentations. We've seen it evolve over computers and libraries and Internet Librarian, that the presentations and the ability to record them have grown every 6 months when we do those conferences there's been a shift in how people are slowly adapting to a visual world. Libraries, with all of our books, like I go in and look at the photography collection when I'm doing a service review for libraries. And, you know, I've been in libraries where it's mostly film books and I'm going, throw them all out. No one does film anymore. I had a library want to put in a dark room, and I said, that's nostalgic. So how do we create a green wall more than a green wall? How do we create sound recording? How do we record on top of video? And how do we show people how to do that? And so one of the ways we've done it is one of my clients, we set up a recording studio and a film studio. And who did we start with? The town councilors. So they could do their monthly update. Talk about them seeing the relevance of a library for having a decent recording studio for them to engage with the voters, with their citizens, with their residents, and getting the coaching from talented people at the library.
Terrific.
It's just,
Stephen, you got about 3
Yep.
minutes.
Okay. Hydroponics. Get your ecology act in order. Hydroponics you can have in the winter. Like, I'm sorry, this is Canada. We can't grow things for 8 months a year, but this is a good thing. Streaming video related to the rest of it. Social media and ads. Now, we all know our phones listen to us, and I cannot believe that the ads are so accurate within 5 minutes of me talking out loud about something. Like, after this webinar, my phone is listening to me. I'm going to get ads on Instagram that are incredible. I'll reinforce the play thing. I'll reinforce that you need to do programs on voice response. Buy a $50 Alexa or Google Home or Amazon Echo and stick it in your library, put it on the desk when it's not staff and say, ask me. And then on the metaverse, we're here. I've got the link in the thing, but look at this stuff, non-fungible tokens. What a ridiculous way to call something called the library card or the student card. That's what a non-fungible token is. Device independence. Can you live without all your devices if you can just talk to the room? So look at smart classrooms, smart rooms. All cool stuff. And this is what we're going to see: an emerging metaverse, an advanced metaverse where it's combined with what we need to do in our workplaces, whatever those workplaces are, whether it's an orchestra as a workplace or a QB farm. And then the mature metaverse as we get to a virtual economy. Remember that batteries are a huge issue, and follow the track in batteries. My phone right now is so much better. It stays charged for 2 days and I live on the damn thing. And then this is what I promised at the beginning. Please remember all the people who have accessibility issues and take the broadest view of inclusion on accessibility. Accessibility is also those who have learning exceptionalities, and some of those learning exceptionalities are positive and some of them restrict their success. How can libraries bridge for both of those people so that we become welcoming? Like, a lot of people have equity, diversity, and inclusiveness strategies. I like to just say, work in from welcoming. Is your library welcoming to what needs to be done? And Brian, I'll pass it over to you and then we'll take questions.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Cool. Hey, everyone. I will share my slides, I suppose. Rebecca, you want to give me that
share,
power?
Brian.
Okay.
There, I stopped sharing.
Cool. All right. Share. So hopefully you see my PowerPoint. You probably see my notes. Let me swap displays. Now you see my PowerPoint.
There you go.
Cool. So yeah, Stephen mentioned this at the beginning about the hype cycle and emerging trends. And so out of this are like five, I think I said 5 key themes. And so I'll talk through those themes and then also show a couple games, games and gadgets and stuff like that that can relate. I see a big trend in AI or digital twins, and you see some of those concepts pointed out on the hype cycle. And I'll talk a little bit about digital twins too. But as Stephen was talking about, there is a lot of looking into immersive experiences, whether that's with the decentralized identity or digital human, or within the metaverse. There's all these new ways of where people are trying to connect and work together. And I would say, thanks to the pandemic, I think that helped push some of these technologies a little bit faster. So if I was to go back to 2019, before, you know, things changed, that was the gist of it. There wasn't a lot of stuff about health. There wasn't a lot of too many like new AIs. Those AIs that are listed out on this hype cycle have been there for a few years. But then in 2021, 2022, we see a lot of like digital health passports, digital identities, and things of that nature, which got us to where we're at in 2022. So the first thing was that immersive, fully inclusive digital style experiences. The other one is accelerated AI automation. We're seeing AI being predominantly used more and more. Like when you first start a chat these days with some sort of support group, most of the time you're talking to an AI at the beginning, and some of it's getting really, really good. And I'll also show you some live stuff that you can play with AI today as well. And there's even AIs that can write code now. There's AIs that can write books. There's been AIs that have written books. There's recently I saw an article about an AI that submitted or it created this art exhibit and it submitted it to a gallery and it was like the best art design. Netflix used a bunch of bots recently to watch all the holiday movies to design the best, most well-reviewed holiday movie as well. And it's all done by an AI. So like it's interesting. I mean, there's always, as the paradigm is called, garbage data in, garbage data out. You can have the best and the most amazing AI ever designed, but if you give it bad data, you'll have bad results. As it relates to AI, they say 75 to 90% of all inquiries were handled by chatbots or will be handled by chatbots between the years of 2019 and 2023. Just to show you the level of people getting used to these types of mechanics. One of the other themes from the tech trends that Stephen shared is this concept of engineering trust. A lot of these new technologies on the horizon have a focus on saying, hey, it's safe to use. If we think about when Stephen was mentioning about the data that we had about all of our users, we don't touch that data. Like we're afraid of it for some reason. But there's a lot of valuable, actionable insights that the majority of the world welcomes and accepts, whether that's you get the special ads on Facebook because you've had conversations or you were searching on your phone earlier that day, or even you're watching Netflix and you're like, oh, what do I want to watch now? And then suddenly Netflix goes, I have some recommendations based off your viewing habits. Or you're shopping on Amazon and you're a shopaholic like myself and you're like, everything should go in the cart. It knows what to recommend you because of it. It looks at your personal data, sees and learns and understands what you like doing and makes those actionable decisions. So this concept of engineering trust is very important as we start to look at some of this new AI and how it's being used. And so one of my favorite discussion points that always causes a heated debate, if you've ever seen the TV series Person of Interest, or if you haven't, check it out. It's built on the premise that there's an AI that then was able to tap into every type of security camera, phone, etc., and it will figure out if someone's likely to commit a crime, and then these two gentlemen, and then additionally a couple other folks, would intercept that crime from happening. So it would learn patterns of behavior and say, hey, this person's buying a shovel and a garbage bag, and they're paying in cash, and they're moving around like something's bad about to happen. And I think this is amazing.
Yeah, probably a hurricane. It's the only time when a hurricane's coming, it's the only time you can buy a tarp, duct tape, and a shovel and not be thinking you're going to murder somebody.
Yeah, that's why I just do it all the time, and then that way there's never ever questions. So I'll be like, no, that's my weekly ritual. But I think this is, for me, I think that's cool. Like I'd sign up for it. So people using AI, I think I had a startup idea that I've never got off the ground yet, where if we attach cameras to every single car in the world. And when they're, those, at least in the States, we have these billboards all over the place that say Amber Alert or Silver Alert when there's people that were abducted or missing. And it's like, look for this license plate. I'm never going to be able to look for that license plate while I drive. I barely pay attention on the road. I'm too busy looking at my phone. That's a joke. That's a joke. But typing emails to Steven or whatnot. And but the point is, like, most people aren't really going to pay that close attention and try to hunt for license plate. So if you overlay all that data with an AI and it goes, hey, I've seen this license plate 3 miles ago, and then another car says, hey, I've seen it 2 minutes ago, and it just got off the exit, you can then plot where someone's going and the speed and the velocity they're going pretty easily. So that's my $1 billion idea. Feel free to start it. And there's the other piece that a lot of the content or a lot of the tech trends that we see are designed around accelerating growth in some fashion or another. Whether that's looking at digital assets or digital twins or digital assistants or using AI to help offload some of that rudimentary routine work, like where's the bathroom or how do I find the bathroom? That I think librarians say is like the top question they get every day.
Mhm.
Brian, I really like the concept of digital twins versus digital assistants. That's fascinating in that I always find it difficult to have an assistant and to give them meaningful work. Whereas what I really need is another one of me. And so
That's dangerous.
AI, and like, that's a digital twin. I like that idea. And if that's able to be accomplished for certain aspects of me, like writing the first draft of an article based on input I give it, or drafting a presentation that I would be comfortable with, I just find that I'd rather have the twin than an assistant.
Yeah, I would pay
Assistant.
very good money to watch you argue with your digital twin. Like that could be a TV show. But
that's my internal conversation.
But then everyone can watch it take place out loud. I think that'd be a moneymaker. Like who can find the facts faster? And as there was a university system in Arizona that I was working with to pilot out what a digital twin would look like for every student. So the concept that we derived to would be you'd load a AI with a student schedule, all the textbooks that it needs to know, and then it follows them along in the course. So if you see them, they're struggling on certain aspects, the AI would be smart enough to highlight that and provide coaching, like almost like a tutor. And then as that student grows and gets better and better at the skills, those additional types of learning mechanisms would take place. Then we would overlay it with a VR aspect where as you're going through a class and you want to build a spaceship because you're, that's something that you're doing for your engineering class. You can build that spaceship in a VR world and have all the tools at your disposal. Or if you're a doctor, learn how to, fix a heart. Those aren't really readily available for live classroom demonstrations. So doing it in a VR setting has become quite the norm in a lot of universities. So kind of wrapping it up, let me see if I can, oopsie, sorry. I thought it was going to play, but it does not feel like playing today. So this is a robot that picks up apples and sorts them and displays them. This is how an AI will see people, or for object detection. Lots of AI, like VR, not VR, self-driving cars uses a technology that we've had for years called LiDAR to detect people, objects, and things. We see a lot of AI being used in healthcare, predominantly with trying to let people be at home and self-solve problems. Or this is actually like an eyeglasses doctor toolkit. You put that on and it figures everything wrong with your eyes, prescribes your prescription, all within minutes. There's tons of companies that are doing these like digital assistants that Stephen was talking about. This company called Deep Brain AI, you basically choose what kind of AI assistant you need for your organization, and they have a bunch of data preloaded and ready to rock and roll. And if you don't like people and you prefer animals, there's an AI for that too. So this is an
That's
AI
probably better, because every one of those AI people I guess I'm getting old. They look like teenagers. The AI doctor in particular.
Yeah.
And he's probably brilliant, but I figure he's got an AI medical degree.
Yeah, and like this is another AI tool that for veterinarians, it'll detect every pet's face and knows who their owner and pull up all the info for it. But probably the biggest thing that we're seeing in terms of a tech trend is generative AI, which is AI that creates content. And I'll show you a couple examples. Let me end my show. Stop share. So at the beginning of today's talk, Stephen mentioned an AI tool, and the tool I like to use is MeetGeek. So this is MeetGeek. I can zoom in on I have a massive monitor because I'm going blind. I'm on the computer all the time. And so the way MeetGeek works is it joins every meeting I go to, like it's my little lackey, and it hops on my calls, records everything, and then transcribes it. The transcription isn't perfect because I mutter quite a lot, and that's my toxic trait. But when it does understand really well is it puts it all together and then gives me what's called a summary. So I can go, all right, what are my actions for this meeting? Because I don't remember, I fell asleep. And so I click actions and it gives me a list of things that I promised. So, oh, let's pitch a VR experience to this conference that we're working with, or, I'll send you some more details. And so and within seconds, I can see what those highlights are as I was working with this person for a conference at South by Southwest, and what types of things we need to pull together. Without me having to listen to a recording or read everything, within seconds, I can have that quick reminder of what to do. There's been a bunch of really cool AIs that have been around for a while. Probably one of my favorite cute ones is InspiroBot. It was supposed to originally design where people upload quotes and images that match the quotes. But because of bad data or garbage data in, garbage data out, you get some really weird results. So we'll do it live and hopefully there's nothing inappropriate, but sometimes it's pretty cool. So you hit generate, it pulls a random quote and puts an image that sometimes are kind of funny. So that's InspiroBot.
And if we want to look at this from a point of view on the next gold rush, so we saw the NFT gold rush where everything went crazy and people were making millions of dollars on NFTs. You may have noticed the beginning of this gold rush where Bruce Willis, who has a degenerative condition and won't be able to act any longer, has just sold the rights to his voice and his physicality to act after he dies. And that's what these AIs will be doing. You may also know that James Earl Jones, who was the voice of Darth Vader,
right. They've done the same
thing. Just sold the rights to his voice to Disney, so they could so his voice will always be the voice of Darth Vader, the iconic voice. And so we're about to see a gold rush on certain kinds of celebrity images and stuff, even if it's post-death. So this is stuff that wasn't available to Marilyn Monroe and Elvis, but these rights are now turning into a different thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of
so tell us about that one, Brian. Wait a minute, go back.
Well, I just have a really awesome idea now.
Okay, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
So based off what Steven says, there's a company called Recut that just came out, and what they do is, so let's say, and we're trying to figure out how to pilot this within a library setting, and the goal is you record one video, so you can do this massive introduction about your library, everything you have, but people usually think that it's boring because you've made it just for 1 billion people. So what this does is it record, you teach it a bunch of words, and then you can sync it with a database. So every time there's a new name, the AI is smart enough to make your face and the word say that person's name. So now every video that it spits out for newcomers has a very unique, specific video tailored to them where it says their name in a couple places. Based off of what Stephen was saying, how we're at this point now, it's incredibly easy for anyone to do this with their own voice.
Well, we used to do the just in case, just in time, just for me, just for you. This is much bigger. Just this one little application is much bigger than the just for me that I imagined years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what federated identity management and identity in the cloud can do. If the cloud has your identity in it, this could write an API to the cloud and know your name even without you inputting it.
Yeah, exactly. So other cool like content created ideas. So this is using TensorFlow, and you can draw a cat and it fills it in. So I'm not a very good drawer, so I will do it live. So let's see, we got legs for kitty, some more legs, and its head over here, its body, a tail. I'll put some ears on it.
You're going to get a ferret.
And I'll draw a smile. Will it process? Not horrible. It's not my best work. But you have a cat. They have one for houses and buildings as well, drawing shoes. But it's a really simple concept of how an AI can figure out, even if you're a horrible person that can draw like myself, you get a decent haunting picture of a kitty cat. This other one is called Writer. So let's make a script. I gotta move my windows around. So we'll say we need a new document. We'll call it next chat. Right. So now what we're going to do is tell the AI to give us content, and I'll zoom in because I think it's tiny when I share. So it can give you a lot of different examples. It will write you tweets, it'll write you blog posts, it'll write you outlines, it'll write a cover letter, job description, etc.
Fantastic.
So what we will do is let's make a video description, and we will say, why is AI great? How to use AI in different ways for public libraries. How is AI being used in, we'll leave it at that. Only have 100 words to use.
Right.
So we can choose how many variants we want and what type of creativity level. So we'll say, we'll do optimal, and we'll have it right. So it pulled the word community. I didn't use the word community, but it's smart enough to know, hey, libraries like stuff about communities.
Right. Does that mean, Brian, that somebody else using Write has talked about public libraries and communities before, and it's now connected that?
Could be.
Okay.
We can also choose tone. So let's make something funny. We'll do the same thing again. So here's this funny one. Don't see how it's funny, but its humor might not be the same as ours. But look, it talks about cataloging books, helping patrons. It uses the word patron, which I think is pretty neat.
Right.
So we will now take this.
Yes.
And we're going to make a video out of it.
Oh, okay.
So let's do script to video. We'll hit proceed. I don't know how this is going to work out, but we'll say, let's get rid of the word in this video. So I like AI because it encourages my level of lazy, and I hit proceed. Gives us a couple templates. So we'll just do any. It does like different video styles. So we'll just choose any. We'll choose that ratio. So now what it'll do is it'll process the text, find videos from a video source, and piece them together along with music that match what we're trying to accomplish, which is now here.
Look at this.
So let me do preview, sorry. Are you able to hear the music?
No.
All right, let me change up my share here 1 second.
Right.
Share sound.
Good. puts music in too?
It does. So hopefully we can hear it.
Okay. Yep.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Almost over.
Wow.
We're talking about books, and it's having a video of someone in a stack.
Oh, he's back. And that's Pictory.ai,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Correct? Yes. Fantastic. I've been waiting to see it. Terrific.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, thanks. I worked really hard on the video.
I could tell.
Wow.
Oh, you're muted,
You could
Stephen.
tell. There, we'll go on
Muted
gallery.
myself and it muted me again on its own. I wish I'd seen it. Sorry, my computer decided to freeze. I haven't had
Well,
a freeze in a long.
No doubt. And so for Pictory, so organizations like libraries that have already invested a great deal in developing text for a particular program or marketing campaign or whatever can input that into Pictory, correct? And then
Correct.
create the video from there. My
Correct.
God. And it doesn't really matter what the price is because it's still cheaper than producing a video.
Yep. And it took
Brian,
us less than 2 minutes.
I'm thinking that we need a workshop at computers and libraries where people can bring some of their content and just make something or make several things
Yeah.
using this, with
just
you
seed it.
as a, yeah.
Yeah,
Just see
exactly.
that with Brian doing Pictory and Chad doing another one or whatever.
Exactly.
Michael.
Drawing cats.
Yeah. Brian, what are you bringing to Internet Librarian?
Oh yeah, I was going to show some of those things.
Some of the tech for the gadgets, games and
Yeah.
gadgets.
So here's 2 things that I think people will get a kick out of. This is Zoomy. Zoomy is a car that you can learn how to program by learning AI. So there's a little AI component on little Zoomy, and you teach her how to detect objects and avoid them or follow paths and figure out the quickest way to go somewhere.
Oh, I could just see the name of the program. Like you could be your own little Elon Musk.
Yeah, pretty much. That's one way to get people going. This is a company called IMMERSIVE. They will probably be at computers and libraries. We might not have enough time to pull them together for Internet Librarian, but this is they're little charms that you can code in Python and send little characters and animations to. Think of it like your one of those like GeoPet things. Very similar idea.
See, that's where it started.
Bring back old tech.
Right in the toys.
It started with
Yeah.
the Chia Pets.
The plant ones. Yeah, I remember those.
Well, I killed my daughters and had to restore it before she got home. It was really funny.
Oh.
So
Good
tell us about
save.
this.
This is Kai's education. So this is Kai Bot. They have a couple. They have Kai's Clan and Kai's Bot, and the new one, Kai Bot, has a couple extra features. It will scan cards, so it has special cards. If you didn't want to use a computer, you can program the robot. There's also a VR component, so you can program a robot to move around and then also see it moving around in VR at the same time.
Wow.
Which is like kind of neat. If you and your friends wanted to build a maze in VR and then program your robot to move in the maze that you built, you and your friends can race each other.
Wow.
So yeah.
Terrific.
So those are some
And
of the cool
I like the idea of cards and the low level of literacy required to use a card like that and use a programming language. I don't know if that's Python or what, but It's a programming language that's built into the card, so you can just use symbols and not know how to read sentences.
Right.
So
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So if you had to, you two, you got 30 seconds. If you had to pick one trend that you are most excited about for public or academic or any type of information management, what would it be?
For me, I'm a big fan of AI. I think it's, some people worry that AI is a job replacer, but I always position as a job enhancer. So now if you get rid of some of like I no longer have to spend 3 hours finding videos online. I can use an AI to do it. Now I can probably make my content that I deliver somewhere else even better because they have more free available space. So I think the content piece of an AI is really important to kind of understand and master.
Fabulous. Stephen?
I think it's a short term and long term. Brian's is long term. It's going to take AI a much longer term, like 5 to 10 years, to be like the metaverse, to be completely relevant in libraries, but the gems go to the early adopters. In terms of what I'm most excited about coming up quickly is getting into more advanced maker spaces, going to the next generation and getting out of the toys. And I think that's an opportunity for libraries where it's doable, they're ready for it. It's got more of the factors there to actually be public with it, rather than in the bubble with the rest of us geeks.
Terrific. And Jane, you
Well,
always have great
I
ideas.
just like I like the AI and I know that we've moved a long way along that curve, even if we can't see it in places, it's there. And I've read a lot of stuff that switches stuff. Instead of artificial intelligence, it's intelligent assistant, which is more along the lines of, Brian's, it's there to help you, or it's a twin, or I like that whole conversation. But I'm really amazed at that Pictory. I mean, that's something that's immediate that people can use quickly to provide something, a marketing tool for their library like that. To me, that's incredible. So,
and that's,
yeah,
but
we're going to follow that up.
Yeah.
What has happened is when Rebecca and I were graduating from university, we had tools. You bought a hammer or you bought a screwdriver. And this is Rebecca's analogy she uses all the time. Now we're getting the toolbox, and the toolbox is visible for the last few years. Now that toolbox is going like the Freon in the refrigerator. Behind Pictory is stuff happening that's a really advanced, complex and complicated toolbox that's doing a lot of stuff in the background. And you don't ask why the fridge is cold. And so it's becoming accessible to people who aren't particularly techie.
Terrific. Yeah, exactly. Well, we did it. There it is. Thank you so much, you two. I will see you both actually at the airport at San Francisco.
Probably not me on the way down, but I'll come back with you.
Okay, terrific. Brian, I'll be picking up you with your games, gadgets, and your mom.
Yeah, it'll be a blast.